Welcome back. We begin on this Halloween night with a rather long tale from my Necronomicon. One which, barring the usual break for a Christmas poem, should see us into the next year. A 10-chaptered work, The Dunwich Horror by H.P. Lovecraft. Gorgons and hydras and chimeras, dire stories of Kaleno and the Harpies, may reproduce themselves in the brain of superstition. But they were there before. They are transcripts, types, the archetypes are in us, and eternal. How else should the recital of that which we know in a waking sense to be a false come to affect us at all? Is it that we naturally conceive terror from such objects, considered in their capacity of being able to inflict upon us bodily injury? Or, least of all, these terrors are of older standing. They date beyond body, or without body. They would have been the same. That the kind of fear here treated is purely spiritual. That it is the kind that's strong in proportion as it is objectless on earth. That it predominates the period of our sinless infancy. Our difficulties, the solution of which might afford us some probable insight into our ante-mundane condition, and a peep, at least, into the shadow land of pre-existence. A quote from Charles Lamb, Witches and Other Night Fears. When a traveller in north-central Massachusetts takes the wrong fork at the junction of the Aylesbury Pike, just beyond Dean's Corners, he comes upon a lonely and curious country. The ground gets higher, and the briar-bordered stone walls press closer and closer against the ruts of the dusty, curving road. The trees of the frequent forest belts seem too large, and the wild weeds, brambles, and grasses attain a luxuriance not often found in settled regions. At the same time, the planted fields appear singularly few and barren, while the sparsely scattered houses wear a surprisingly uniform aspect of age, squalor, and dilapidation. Without knowing why, one hesitates to ask directions from the gnarled, solitary figures spied now and then on crumbling doorsteps, or on the sloping, rock-strewn meadows. Those figures are so silent and furtive that one feels somehow comforted by forbidden things, with which it would be better to have nothing to do with. When a rise in the road brings the mountains in view above the deep woods, the feeling of strange uneasiness is increased. The summits are too rounded and symmetrical to give sense of comfort and naturalness, and sometimes the sky silhouettes their especial clearness the queer circles of tall stone pillars with which most of them are crowned. Gorges and ravines of problematical depth intersect the way, and the crude wooden bridges always seem of dubious safety. When the road dips again, there are stretches of marshland that one instinctively dislikes, and indeed almost fears at evening. But unseen whippoorwills chatter and the fireflies come out in abnormal profusion to dance to the raucous, creepy, incessant rhythms of stridently piping bullfrogs. The thin, singing line of the Miskatonic's upper reaches has an oddly serpent-like suggestion as it winds close to the feet of the domed hills among which it rises. As the hills draw nearer, one heeds their wooded sides more than their stone-crowned tops. Those sides loom up so darkly and precipitously that one wishes they would keep their distance, but there is no road by which to escape them. Across a covered bridge one sees a small village huddled between the stream and the vertical slope of round mountain, and wonders at the cluster of rotting gambrel roofs, bespeaking an earlier architectural period than that of the neighbouring region. It is not reassuring to see, on a closer glance, that most of the houses are deserted and falling to ruin, and that the broken steepled church now harbours the only slovenly mercantile establishment in the hamlet. One dreads to trust the tremulous tunnel of the bridge, yet there is no way to avoid it. Once across, it is hard to prevent the impression, yet there is no of a faint, malign odour about the village street, as of the massed mould and decay of centuries. It is always a relief to get clear of the place, and to follow the narrow road around the base of the hills, and across the level country beyond till it rejoins the Aylesbury pike. Afterwards, one sometimes learns that one has been through Dunwich. Outsiders visit Dunwich as seldom as possible, and since a certain season of horror, all the signboards pointing towards it have been taken down. The scenery, judged by an ordinary aesthetic canon, is more than commonly beautiful, yet there is no influx of artists or summer tourists. 2 centuries ago, when talk of witch-blood, Satan worship, and strange forest presences had not laughed at, it was accustomed to give reasons for avoiding the locality. In our sensible age, since the Dunwich horror of 1928 was hushed up by those who had the town and the world's welfare at heart, people shun it without knowing exactly why. Perhaps one reason, though it cannot apply to uninformed strangers, is that the natives are now repellently decadent, having gone far along the path of retrogression so common in many New England backwaters. They have come to form a race by themselves, with the well-defined mental and physical stigmata of degeneracy and inbreeding. The average of their intelligence is woefully low, whilst their annals reek of overt viciousness and of half-hidden murders, incests, and deeds among almost unnameable violence and perversity. The old gentry, representing the 2 or 3 armigerous families which came from Salem in 1692, have kept somewhat above the general level of decay, though many branches are sunk into the sordid populace so deeply that only their names remained as key to the origin of their disgrace. Some of the Waitleys and bishops still send their elder sons to Harvard and Miskatonic, though those sons seldom return to the mouldering gambrel roofs under which they and their ancestors were born. No one, even those who have the facts concerning the horror, can say just what the matter is with Dunwich. Though old legends speak of unhallowed rites and conclaves of Indians, amidst which they called forbidden shapes and shadow out of the great rounded hills, and made wild organistic prayers that were answered by loud crackings and rumblings from the ground below. In 1747, the Reverend Abijah Hoadley, newly come to the Congregational Church in Dunwich village, preached a memorable sermon on the close presence of Satan and his imps, in which he said, "It must be allowed that these blasphemies of the infernal train of demons are matters of too common knowledge to be denied. The cursed voices of Azrael and Buzrael, of Beelzebub and Belial, being heard now from underground by above a score of credible witnesses now living. I myself did not more than a fortnight ago catch a very plain discourse of evil powers on the hill behind my house, wherein there was a rattling and a rolling, groaning, screeching, and hissing, such no things of this earth cause raised up, and must needs have come from the caves that only black magic can discover, and only the devil unlock." Mr. Hoadley disappeared soon after delivering this sermon. but the text printed in Springfield is still extant. Noises in the hills continue to be reported from year to year, and still form a puzzle to geologists and physiographers. Other traditions tell of foul odours near the hill-crowning circles of stone pillars, and of rushing, airy presences to be heard faintly at certain hours from stated points at the bottom of the great ravines, while still others try to explain it of the Devil's Hop Yard, a bleak, blasted hillside where no tree, shrub, or grass blade will grow. Then, too, the natives are mortally afraid of the numerous whippoorwills, which grow vocal on warm nights. It is vowed that the birds are psychopomps, lying in wait for the souls of the dying, and that they time their eerie cries in unison with the sufferer's struggling breath. If they can catch the fleeing soul when it leaves the body, they instantly flutter away, chittering in demoniac laughter. But if they fail, they subside gradually into disappointed silence. These tales, of course, are obsolete and ridiculous, because they come down from very old times. Dunwich is indeed ridiculously old, older by far than any of the communities within 30 miles of it. South of the village one may spy the cellar walls and chimney of the ancient bishop house, which was built before 1700, whilst the ruins of the mill at the falls, built in 1806, form the most modern piece of architecture to be seen. Industry did not flourish here, and the 19th century factory movement proved short-lived. Oldest of all the great rings of rough-hewn stone columns on the hilltops, but these are more generally attributed to the Indians than to the settlers. Deposits of skulls and bones, found within the circles and around the sizable table-like rock on Sentinel Hill, sustain the popular belief that such spots were once the burial places of the Pocumtucks, even though many ethnologists, disregarding the absurd improbability of such a theory, persist in believing the remains Caucasian. Thanks for watching. See you next time.